Hello, I'm going to do a demo of downloading and installing Python and writing a simple program. I will do a Google search on Python and I will click on this main link, which is the official Python website. And there's a download tab here, and I will download Python 3.8.0. There's two different main sort of versions of Python. There was a Python 2.7, and that kind of branch at that point, and then they broke to a Python 3.0. The Python 3.0 and Python 2.7 are somewhat incompatible. We'll use the newer versions of Python, which will be the Python 3.0
Auto shutdown initiated.
and the Python 3.8.
Auto shutdown canceled.
Is the one we should have installed here. Just trying to find it in my list. Here it is. And I have it installed, so I'm going to do a repair. Python is a general purpose interpreted language. Interpreted is in contrast to compiled. A compiled language would compile to an executable which has instructions the CPU directly understands. Python is instead interpreted and has sort of an intermediate layer. It's a very popular language. It's used both academic world and commercial world for all sorts of purposes. So we'll come down here, and what I'm going to actually do is run idle, which is installed along with Python and allows me to easily interact with Python here. This is the Python shell. I can type in Python code directly. I will use the print command here, and it will print out 10. I could print out strings as well. And you can use double quotes or single quotes for strings. And there's some reasons for doing one or the other. For example, I could put single quotes inside my string. Pretty handy. If I type a value in, it'll just print the value. I can make a variable here. I'll create a list. Lists are shown in brackets here. And when I type in just my list, it'll show me a string representation of the list. So we'll write a program. The standard way to show writing a program is to start with a hello world program, where I say hello world. And to run the program, I can just type run module here. You could also just type F5. Now it needs me to save the program somewhere. Now I don't think you should save it to the default area, because I believe that that would be, if you uninstalled Python, it would remove all your programs. Probably don't want that. So I have a source directory here. All right, so here's my hello world program. So let's write something a little more interesting. We will write something that counts the number of occurrences of characters in a string. So we'll create a function. We start with def, and we have the function name. We'll call it count chars, and we'll need to tell it what its arguments are. In this case, it's just an S, and we'll end with a colon. If this was a language like C++, we'd have to tell it what type S is. Python doesn't do that. You don't tell it what the type is, and when you run the program, if you try to do something that's not allowed, that's where you'll see an error. So we'll just start with something simple to just kind of get rolling on this function. We will just loop through all the characters. We'll use the for statement, and the for statement allows us to iterate over or loop over a container of some kind or a sequence. It can be used for a lot of cases like lists, tuples, sets. we'll just keep it simple. We'll say we'll loop over our string here. As above, we end up with a colon. For C in S is the syntax saying, I want this value to be a series of values from S, which are the characters of S. So we loop over S or iterate over S and in turn assign each character to C. So to test that we're getting what we expect, we'll just say print C. And then we will call this, we'll have a little test. We could just create like our little test string here. Just give a variety of options here. And then we'll print out what the result of count chars is. And we'll pass in our test string as its argument. And that's good for now. Now it does exactly what we'd expect. It prints out A, then B, C, 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 A, and D. It prints out none because my function did not actually return anything. So when I tell it to print out the result of the count chars, column count chars with test string, it prints out none because my function didn't actually return a result. So let's give it a result. Now what we're going to send back is going to be a map, or in Python it's called a dictionary. So it's a Python dictionary, and a dictionary has keys and values. Our keys are going to be characters, our values are going to be counts of characters. So we'll create our empty dictionary called counts, and then we will return our dictionary. Right now it's empty. We'll just, this is kind of a way to kind of test your code as you go. So now what we want to do is store the counts of the characters in the dictionary. So we'll start simple. We'll say counts, and then we'll put in brackets the key, or the key is C, and we'll say equals. And we want to increment for each time we see a specific character. So if we see A 5 times, each time we need to increment the value. So we'll say count sub C equals count sub C plus 1. I say sub, that's a common way to talk about brackets, because historically brackets were used for arrays, and sub means subscripting. So I would, for an array starting with 0, we'd say A sub 0, A sub 1, A sub 2. For a dictionary, that doesn't really make sense. But, that's the way my brain works because I've been programming for a long time. So we're really saying counts, the dictionary key of C in counts is being incremented. Hopefully that makes sense. So we'll run our program, and as I expected, we get an error. The reason why we get an error is because I actually tried to use count sub C before it was defined. So it gets to, it tries to do something with the, or access the value of the key D before I've set it.
Shutdown initiated.
So anyway, that's,
Auto shutdown canceled.
That's a problem. So we'll just change our code slightly. We will say, we will ask to see if we have the key yet, if the key exists in the dictionary. So we can use something called for C in counts. And if this is true, we will do this. Now we have to use indents here to indicate what is underneath our if statement, and you have to be consistent. I'm just hitting tab and idle, and it's making my life easier. So when I hit tab, it just indents here. And then when I hit backspace, it outdents. Okay. So it's important that you use these indents and they are consistent. It doesn't care how many spaces you indent as long as you are consistent about it. If our key is not in counts, then we have the else statement. And the else is what to do if it isn't true. And by it, C in counts is not true, meaning there is no key of C in counts. So then we will say counts C is just 1. It's the first time we've seen that key, so we'll just set it to 1. So now it tells us that we have 1D. And I'm trying to figure out where this went wrong. It's not doing what I expect, so I'm trying to figure out why it doesn't do A. And we could just maybe do something easy in our program to kind of see where we're at. Put some kind of code in here where I print out C and counts here and C and counts here. Just do a little debugging here. Yep, I see the problem. It's really basic. So what I had done without thinking about it, I had not indented my if statement. So rather than it happening every single time, it only happened once. That's just a dumb error on my part. So now I'll run the program. And then it will tell me there's 2 A's, 2 B's, 3 C's, and 1 D. So we'll just call it a day at that before I make any other dumb errors, and thanks for watching.